Welcome back to Getting It Done with Uncle Tej. I'm Uncle Tej. Today, for around $32. So, like I said, it will get messy. It will flow. All right, welcome back to Getting It Done with Uncle Tej. Today, we are going to epoxy the countertops in the trailer. So, what we have is one of my favorite products ever, Total Boat Tabletop and Bar Epoxy. This stuff is ultra clear, doesn't yellow, it's fantastic. It's a 1-to-1 mixture ratio. You got about a 35-40 minute pot life. For those who doesn't know what that means, basically you got about 35 to 45 minutes to work with it, get all the bubbles out, and then you have to leave it alone. I've masked off the entire area, masked off anything underneath that I'm worried about dripping through. Epoxy is like water. It will find the path of least resistance, and if you have a place that has not been completely covered up, or it's not completely filled in, it will drip through the bottom. Got paper all along the floor because it's going to drip off the side. You definitely want to wear gloves when doing this. And so we're just going to go through the entire process, and then I can speed stuff up during editing. But we're just going to go through the entire process. I'm going to take my gloves off because once I get making this stuff, I want to make sure I'm not going to want to touch my phone. I'm not going to want to touch anything, and I'm going to want to get rid of these gloves before I touch anything. So, like I said, it will get messy. It will flow everywhere. You just have to be ready for it. You can buy these little, like they're Bondo scrapers, little plastic little scrapers. These things are perfect for spreading the epoxy out on your surface. And then the big thing here is you want to make sure your ratios are right. And then 7 minutes, you have to get this thing mixed very thoroughly. 7 minutes. Make sure that when you're doing it, you're scraping the bottom, you're scraping this, you're going all the way around. You got to make sure that this is mixed thoroughly. If you don't, there will be disastrous results. Let me say this again. If you don't mix this right, there will be a disaster, and it is a pain to get off. So, I am going to mix this up real quick, and then we're going to put 7 minutes on the clock, and I'm not going to make you sit for 7 minutes and watch me stir. So, hold on. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a 1-to-1, okay? So, we're going to do 8 ounces. And then another 8 ounces to get a pint, okay? We've got, it's a 1-to-1 mix, so we'll open this up with this. Don't touch anything when you're playing around with this stuff. I'm telling you, it is sticky, it's crazy, you'll make a mess, and I promise you, you do not want to make that mess. Don't wear any clothes that you are not going to want to get this on, because once it's there forever. There's the hardener, so we're going to put the resin in first. We're going to take it all the way up and do this slow. Right on the money. Okay, put the lid back on. We'll put this aside. Alright, now for the hardener. Perfect. Okay, and this stuff will not harden without each other. Alright, put this out of the way. Time to stir. And again, we've got our 16 ounces. Okay, you can see right there. 16 ounces, right? And then what I did is I took a stir stick from a local paint shop, and we're just gonna start doing this. So, see you in 7 minutes. All right, I've got my timer going, and you can see it gets like this pearly color. So don't worry about bubbles. Try not to introduce too many bubbles, but don't worry about it. We've got a MAP gas torch. Hopefully my neighbor didn't use all my MAP gas. And got a MAP gas torch. We can get all the bubbles out. And it is, like I said, crazy important. I'm going to pull this a little closer. Scrape the bottom, scrape the sides. All right, another important thing that you have to have. Don't have to, but it definitely is the best. Get yourself some MAP gas or some propane. That one is the best one for getting bubbles out. I'll show you about that in a minute. So let's get into it. We've got 7 minutes. We've got the pour done. Let's get all this stuff off the way. All right. All right, so this is where you go, okay? This is where the fun begins. So if you've never done this before, this is the scariest moment, because all the hard work that you just put in is now going to be under scrutiny. If you did this wrong, you have to do a lot of work to get it fixed. But because you watched Getting It Done with Uncle Tej, you're going to do it right, and it's not going to be scary. So, start with this side. It's very easy. You just pour some on right across the front, and then you spread. Super simple. All right, so this pour is going real smooth. Not seeing a lot of bubbles, which is fantastic. Normally there's tons of bubbles, but man, this thing's just awesome. Now you're probably saying, Uncle Tej, what did you make that beautiful countertop out of? I'm not gonna lie, I made it out of 2x6s I found at the local hardware store. Why? Because I think it looks cool, and not a lot of people have them. I love doing stuff. I love using pine to do stuff that most people wouldn't do. They say, well, it won't last as long or whatever. Man, I'm telling you right now, you put tabletop and bar epoxy on there, it's going to outlast a lot of things. All right, so now we're going to go with the next pour. This is the big one. So we're going to put a lot on there. And watch where you step, because where you step on the ground is that. So you just move it around, kind of like a plow, right? You just kind of push it here, push it there, drag it here, drag it there, drag it back over. Don't worry about going over where you just went, because it's still, we got plenty of life left in this to get where we're going. So I'm probably going to have to mix up a little bit more for the little one. Grab this and let's get all of it out of there. Now, here's another thing. If you have to mix up more, do not, under any circumstance, and I mean under any circumstance, use the same cup, because there's a chemical reaction happening right now that will screw your next batch up. Do not do that, again, under any circumstances. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. It's like my favorite part, man. I'm not even gonna lie. I love messing with this stuff. I've enjoyed it since I started doing it. My very first time I was doing it, I just built a paddle board for my wife, and it was beautiful, and I was terrified. It wasn't total boat. It was actually a brand specifically designed for surfboards. It's got kind of a bluish tint, but it helps bring out a lot of whites. It also, any colors, it'll help bring out colors and stuff like that. And it was just beautiful. But man, talk about, I just spent a month building this board. It was out of redwood, and now it was the time to glass it and pour the resin, and I was terrified. But because I had never done it before, but then I realized that it was like no big deal. It was just epoxy. So you can see I'm pulling some of that epoxy over. Yeah. Spreading it out, getting a nice and thin layer. And a lot of people, they'll try to do a ridiculously thick layer on the first one. I can tell you that's a bad idea. Best thing you can do when you're doing something like this, where you still have a relatively porous surface, do your first layer, you know, nice and even, but as thin as you can really get away with. You're just going to have a nicer product. Most of your bubbles are gonna come out through the wood. Your wood bubbling will happen in the first pour. Take your MAP gas and just hit it. All right, so MAP gas. Now we're gonna let it cure. This is the time where you just kind of let it sit. All right, so we got the second one. New scraper, new stir stick, new mixing cup.